Okay, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another seven oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. I greet my Muslim family in the words of peace, assalamu alaikum. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my black conscious family, hotep. And to my people in the streets, what's good with you? Before we get started, just want everyone to know about my new channel, The Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid, Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid. Click the subscribe button and share the messages that I have on there. Without no further ado, I want to introduce my very, very special guest this evening, Minister Amon, one of Minister Farrakhan's top star students in the Nation of Islam of Mosque 34. So we'll get started by Minister Amon just introducing himself and him telling us how he came into the Nation of Islam under the leadership of Minister Farrakhan. Without no further ado, my great, wonderful brother, Minister Amon.
Assalamu alaikum. And peace to your listening audience. Thank you first, Brother Shareef, for taking time out of your schedule. We know you to be a good brother and always on the front line where our people are concerned, especially for our youth, and we take it as a great honor and privilege to be with you in any endeavor that you're engaged in, because we know it's right and exact where our people are concerned. In the year 1990, during my senior year in high school, I began really looking into gathering what we would call at that time knowledge of self, intelligence, and I was really motivated at that time, which is a argument that we always have about what is the golden era of hip-hop, but I believe it was in that time. And there was so much consciousness in the pursuit of consciousness at that time, but it was hip-hop that I was also engaged in that world very deeply at that time. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was a recurring voice in that, and those who seemed to be associated with him or used what he was teaching seemed to exhibit the type of strength and brotherhood that I was looking for as I was trying to find out more knowledge of myself and origins. So to try to say that as succinctly as possible, I began studying the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad under his guidance and leadership in 1990, and graduated high school in 1991. And my freshman year, in the fall of 1991, I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, the great Aggie Pride. And it was there that myself and many other college mates and some people even from high school, we all joined the Nation of Islam, maybe 10 to 12 of us within a year span at that time. So that was my entry into the in the Nation of Islam at that time.
Oh, okay. And how about becoming the minister here in Durham, because we're in Durham, North Carolina?
Yes.
I know that's not a simple process because the nation is very organized, well-oiled machine. You guys just don't haphazardly, do things, recklessly do things, because it's coming from the minister. So how did you briefly come into that position?
Yes. Well, I've been here in Durham, North Carolina. I was assigned here in September of 2008. And the Nation of Islam is set up and organized in such a way that we have what is called regions. And so when I was assigned here, I had already spent some time. As I said, joining at a very young age, I had already spent some time in working and laboring in the city of Greensboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and some work in my hometown of Reidsville, North Carolina, and our Mid-Atlantic Regional Headquarters asked me at that time in September of '08, at the time we needed leadership here in Durham, North Carolina, and would I be willing to come here and help, really further the work. And a strong foundation had already been laid by the previous student ministers who had been present all the way back to, of course, I know you're familiar with his history, and I did get a chance to watch one of your presentations and videos where you were visiting over at Masjid Al-Razak.
Yes.
And over on Chapel Hill Street.
Yes.
So the great legacy of the Nation of Islam here in the South, Durham, North Carolina, has always been a preeminent mosque in that great work. So, of course, I was very happy and excited to continue my work and service to black folk and helping the minister in a task that is already very difficult at best.
Right. Great. Well, we're going to get right into it, brother. The nation is, in the news a lot. Always something positive, to me. But just like prophets of old, no one gets, 100% acceptance. So it's always questions. And as when I'm counseling people and talking to people, they say, well, why don't people, believe or understand this? And I say, you can poke a hole in anything if you're looking for something. You know what I mean? You can poke a hole, and so it's anything you can find faults, especially if you're looking for fault. So, I'm Muslim, but I'm not a part of any particular, denomination. I love all my people, but I'm also close with the what they call the conscious movement.
Yes.
I have a lot of connections with different brothers, the ones that do all the speeches and that we hear. So a question or a critique that they seem to always have, and just people in the community, is the separation with Malcolm from the nation, and then moving into I guess that would be the mid to late 90s with Dr. Khalid.
Yes,
and I don't know if you know, I'm pretty sure you do because you're a very well-studied brother. Dr. Khalid is almost like the face of the Black conscious movement, when he made, that move. So a lot of people are confused or upset about that. So I was wondering if you could just clear up briefly, because we can go on and on about Malcolm, about the separation of Malcolm, briefly maybe about his death, and then the separation of Dr. Khalid from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would do my best. I have been fortunate enough in my time in the nation to have met many, many people, older brothers and sisters who were around at that time. Of course, it's obvious that I did not know Brother Malcolm personally. However, I did know quite well, did work with on many occasions, even some joint events with our brother Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And one of the things that we have to always remember as students of both, we would say, religion, but also students of the rise of our people, the enemy has never been confused or out of focus about his primary objective, which J. Edgar Hoover put so well and succinctly, which was what? To prevent the rise of a black Messiah. So even though we have taken different twists and turns in our sojourn in America, trying to come up out of how slavery affected us, he's never lost sight of that goal. And there were many similarities in our brother's history, not only internally where the Nation of Islam is concerned, but also how the enemy primarily being the United States government of America, which still has as its primary objective to prevent the rise of black messiah and black messiahs that would be offspring of that. And they were always at that time looking at ways to how to divide the students, or especially the students that would shine and work hard on behalf of the primary teacher, how to separate them and try to not only separate them to weaken the relationship between student and teacher, but also to split the movement, because as it is very natural, people have different spokesmen that they may have a liking to, or they may want to hear of. Our brother Malcolm was a tremendous helper of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he was not the only helper. Yeah. He was a tremendous teacher, but he was not the only great teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So the enemy was always looking at and studying and trying to find ways, and even having scientists, psychologists devoted to the study of his words, his speeches, to do psychological analyses to see how the brother thought, how, where his weak spots may be. And this is something that has never stopped. It didn't stop with him. It didn't stop with our brother Khalid. And it doesn't stop even to this day. I'm sure the enemy will pick apart our conversation. So he can see, now how can I find ways to, dampen their relationship, or weaken their, or dilute their effect in their city where they're trying to do work. That's a real devil. Mm-hmm. The other side of that sometimes things may look a little strange to our people that don't understand. We believed then and believe now that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is a man that was raised by God himself to teach in our people into the knowledge of ourselves and make a new and better people out of us. And for that to be accomplished, he needed our obedience. He needed not our worship, but our devotion to the cause and agenda that he laid out. And in this time frame that we're in, we believe that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the one who has lifted up the work and continued the work of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we believe him not only to be a great spiritual leader, teacher, and guide, but we believe him to be a wise general who has the responsibility as given to him by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he said of him he would get us safely to the other side on his shoulders. So I'm saying that to say, just as with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, same thing with Minister Farrakhan, sometimes generals make moves or decisions that many would question. It's fine, you can question it, but when you are in a military line organization that you have subscribed to, then you have on your shoulders the burden of obeying, even when you may not understand fully what the general is guiding you to do. And just as in the time with our brother Malcolm, I would say this, as I wasn't there then, but I'm here now. Just as many who claim our brother Malcolm X, they were not with him at that time. And it's very convenient to be with him now and lift his name now, but you didn't back the brother then. And if he was here present, you wouldn't be with him today. And it's the same thing with Brother Khalid. Good, beautiful black soldier. I will always treasure the moments that brother spent with me. But I know many who lift his name, not all, but many who lift his name today and hold him up as you were mentioning earlier, maybe even as the new patron saint of black consciousness, many of them brothers were not around. And if Brother Khalid was here today, he would not even recognize many of these people in the way that they move, especially in the way of deception, especially in the way of not even being really true to black folk. And I would even say not even having the real hardcore work ethic. One of my fondest memories of Brother Khalid when I was very, very young at that time in the labor, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he believes in not waiting till someone is in their 40s and 50s and 60s and then deciding. No, he will work with you, brother, as a teenager. And I was at that time, one of the youngest officials in the Nation of Islam, and that was not even a rarity, and it's still not to this day. And Brother Khalid was in my city teaching, and he kept asking who did this here and who did that there, and I did this, I did that. And that brother, he in his own special way, he cussed that audience out, brother, and really got on them about not doing all of the work that they should be doing. And why won't you help this man do what he's trying to do for the minister? And it hurt us tremendously to see our brother fall victim to some of the things that he said out of his own mouth that he would never do, and taught us when he was among us what to be careful of and what not to do. And many folk, they know this, but they won't talk about it. And then you have other folk who claim to know things that they did not know, that they did not say, that they did not see. And I've witnessed personally different occasions where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan would reach out to our brother and admonish our brother. I even saw recently something on the internet. Somebody had wrote something about the abruptness of, from their vantage point, of the minister's correction of Brother Khalid. This is not so. I can remember distinctly in a meeting I was in 1993, laborers meeting, in which he admonished our brother to, I would like for you to move like this. I would like for you to teach like this. I would like for you to go like this. Now, whether one may agree or disagree, the minister has the right as the general, he has the right as the sensei or sifu to guide us in the way that he sees fit, and we submit to him to make out of us better helpers to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, as you said, we could go far down that line.
One thing on that, you had used the word admonish. I know a lot of people talk about some of the his last speeches, like the is it Keenan College speech?
King College, yes, sir.
And a couple of speeches that were very fiery. I think one at Howard University. Was there any particular speech or at that time that, to your knowledge, the minister said, that's enough? I remember I seen a news clip and the minister said some of the things he's saying isn't in the spirit of Islam. Was there any particular speech or anything he did that he had to make the decision to remove him as the national representative?
Well, I can't say, to my knowledge, as you said, brother, I can't say it was, as they would say, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, or however that goes. But I do know in terms of our class, ministry class, there were many times in which the minister advised all of us how to go, how to move. And the thing with this, and anybody that truly knows Brother Khalid also knows that not only was he a fiery orator, the brother was a brilliant human being. He was brilliant. And the minister wants us to be, and has always encouraged us to be, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad encouraged them and Brother Malcolm at that time, to grow up into becoming statesmen. See, we're not building little things on the side here and there. We're building a nation. And when I'm in my city doing my work, I have to always remember I'm not only representing him, I'm representing him and an entire nation and our God. And there, as a statesman, there are things that we should not do, we should not say, we should not make mockery of people. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught them at that time, and the minister teaches us today, that you should not attack a man personally. You know, don't do that. You go after the man's program if you feel like there's something that you know.
Right.
So there are a lot of principles, I would call them, that they gave and still do give, that is to help us and lift us up so that we can go anywhere in the world representing our nation. And there's certain type of talk that may be fitting for the basement, but that's basement talk, and it's not something that would go out to the world stage to represent our entire nation, you know. So I can't say that it was something.
Conversation, and we
Yes,
definitely,
sir.
I can
Yes,
already
sir.
see we're going to have to do a part 2
Yes, sir.
of this. And may Khalid and Malcolm rest in peace.
Yes. Yes.
Moving along, you hear, this talk from what they call Sunni Muslims, which is really no such thing as a Sunni Muslim. You don't even see that word in the Quran. You can follow the Sunnah, which is the way and life of the Prophet. There's no such thing as a Sunni Muslim, but that's what most people who are outside the scope of Islam understand. They have been having this talk that the Nation of Islam aren't true Muslims. They're not following the Sunnah of the Prophet because of a lot of trivial things, the dress, the beard, maybe prayers or certain things that the traditional Muslim world may do.
Yes, sir.
Can you, give clarity on that, about this thing about not being a true Muslim?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent question, brother. Excellent question. Very timely. First, I would say, and being a Muslim, you would know this, and many of your listeners as well. First of all, it is not on us to say to another Muslim that you are not a Muslim if the Muslim says he or she is a Muslim.
That's what he says. That's what he is.
And Allah is he who will act as a final judge as to who is a Muslim and who is not a Muslim, who is a hypocrite, who is not a hypocrite. These are things that we take on ourselves. But I have to say this, brother. Many who have taken on the way of the enemy, and they don't even know that they are doing this, and I mean the way of the enemy, it's just like, again, the thing I was telling you about that I read. Why is there a sudden talk or increase in talk about brother Malcolm or brother Khalid, or why is there a certain increase in conversation about, really, are they really Muslims, when the minister and many of us have been all over the world and accepted in many places, literally all over the world, as Muslims, including Mecca, including Saudi Arabia.
The ministers made several trips there.
Several. So, and we who are as students, I hadn't just been in Durham, North Carolina. I've been outside of America representing our nation, up to and including in Africa and Jamaica, Ghana, Senegal, the Gambia, and treated as a Muslim brother. And they knew who was coming when we got there. So I'm just saying, who is really behind the argument over what has already been proven? And I would say this. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man who never gave credit to anybody else raising him up to give to us what he gave to us other than Allah. A man who went to the 4th grade and completed it, was promoted to the 5th, but his father and family needed him in the field, so he didn't get to go. That was the end of his formal education. But a man like that, who took the nation up, and the nation has not stopped. And after 87 years, still Allah is blessing us, brother. And we have never claimed any other God other than Allah. So I think part of it also is envy and jealousy, and some of us wanting to claim hold to people who claim to be representing the true Islam, but when they came here, and some who still come here, they seek to make merchandise of the very same people that we are going after on a daily basis to clean them up out of behavior. So these people that would go after them and you would claim that they are true Muslims, I beg your pardon. If you would judge anybody, then that's who you should judge. And really, those who think like that, to be very honest and to be very frank, when I hear somebody, even if they're in a talk or giving an interview or could be anywhere, and someone would say and ask them about Islam, and Islam originated 1400 years ago in Saudi Arabia with Prophet Muhammad, and they agree, yes, we are. See, no, that is wrong. That is not true, because Islam did not originate 1400 years ago. Islam is as old as God himself, and it is the nature in which he has created men. Now, if you are a Muslim, you know this. But some want to claim or use that to claim Islam as their religion. But if it's anybody's religion, as a people, it is our natural way of life as original people. So, it's unfortunate, brother, that in 2017, many still want to make or go after an argument that time has shown and history has shown, and I would go so far as to say Allah is showing by who he's blessing, that we are true Muslims. And those who want to hold on to the foolishness of that we aren't, well, I would offer to you to let Allah be the decider, as he said he would be, just as to who is true and who is not true, because he certainly is blessing us every day in this great work.
Well, your work is impeccable in the streets. Black people who know very little about Islam, the first thing, if you ask them, what do you know about Muslims, they're going to start attaching either the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Minister Farrakhan with very little knowledge of the concepts, the practices of Islam. That's the first thing, that they say. I'll give a small example, then we can move on. Last week, about 2 weeks ago, two of our Muslim brothers and sisters passed away. Brother Umar, and there was a sister named Sister Hamdullah. I actually worked with her in the school system. And another sister who worked in the school system, she's a counselor there, and she said, I understand it's going to be a Muslim funeral. She was talking about the sister. And I said, yes. She said, do I have to come different or anything like that? I said, no, you come as you are. It's at a center. And she said, well, I was told that Minister Farrakhan don't allow the sisters and the brothers. I said, wait a minute. So right away, she thought he was in charge of how everything, that's the first thing came to her mind. So I had to start breaking down her, it's different sects, it's different, leadership, and he's not responsible, positive or negative, for everything that goes on in the Muslim, community. And she wasn't being disrespectful, but I'm just making a point. As soon as she's heard Muslim funeral, right away she thought that the nation was officiating over the funeral, and that wasn't the case. Just to put you in the mindset, that's what people That's what they connect with. And I made a post last week. It said, since when was the Sunnah, which is an Arabic word for life or way, since when is the Sunnah or life of the Prophet selling pork, liquor, alcohol, and cigarettes? They want to say the nation ain't following the Sunnah, but what Sunnah is that?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
and submitting yourself to the enemies of God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not good, brother. And we can't continue in this modern time allowing Shaitan to give us the arguments. Now, if we have something that we want to talk about, or well, let's talk about this, brother. I'm not sure about this point. Okay, fine. Yeah. But you can't allow the enemy himself to come in between. This is the purpose of when we go to Salat al-Juma. And as you know, I visit Al-Razak on a regular basis. And because I feel at home, you know, there. And many members there, they come here at different times for different meetings. Of course, they're welcome. We're brothers, you know, and we should not allow anything to break that bond. Even if there is a disagreement here and there, we have Quran and we can use it as we should to, and Allah's guidance and the example of his messenger to settle our difference. So I hope that we will continue to grow, brother, to as Muslims, to do more of what you're even doing right now, and don't even recognize those folk who try to continue the divide, to keep Islam divided up into sects and parties when there's no such thing as many things that some of us are being deceived now into becoming a part of that argument. Are you a moderate Muslim or what? I mean, brother, what is that? There's no such thing as that. Right. So we can't, as a community, buy in to that. That is not proper. It's not proper.
Finishing out, as some of the viewers, you may or may not know, something major, happened in '75 with the nation and the leadership. So for those who don't know, what was Elijah Muhammad's vision, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's vision of what direction the nation should go after he was no longer, here, with us. Some may or may not know, depending on your study. You have Imam W.D. Muhammad, bless his soul. Is he the eldest son of Elijah Muhammad?
No.